It's Washington, D.C., so I am driving,
Oh,
and
I'm
I will
sorry,
be.
man. For a minute, I think I was thinking of Washington State. I apologize.
Yeah, that would be a very long drive, but
You would not make it.
no, I would not.
Well, if you get the opportunity, Pags, if you stop by 1526 Howard Road in Southeast DC, you can see my old house.
There you go.
And maybe you can say hi.
Maybe.
As a painted up person, they'd be like, wow, look at this.
Yeah, they'd be like, "What is this?" Is really what it is.
Exactly. I can't imagine that they're going to be real interested in seeing me.
I can see right now. This is Amazon's new look. Here's your package.
Yeah, even if he was flying, yeah, it would be a long flight.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. And the Flyers are playing the Capitals, correct?
They are.
Yeah.
And your expectation for this game is what?
Hey, listen, I the reason why I'm headed down there is because they need to get something going, and I'm going to help them get it going in Washington. The last time I was in Washington, they won. Uh, in fact, we destroyed them, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been a minute.
It has been a minute. So interestingly enough, I'm going today, and then tomorrow I will be going to my first time ever to Madison Square Garden.
Nice.
Nice.
Also
Nice.
for the Flyers, since they play back to back, I'm going to go full bore.
Now, are you going to get a hotel room in a lesser expensive place like Jersey and then just kind of travel over, or are you going to get a place in New York?
Actually, I'm not going to get a place. So, interestingly enough, I have a train station that is right across the street from my apartment. And from that train station, I could take local transportation all the way up to Madison Square Garden.
That's
Nice.
crazy.
That's awesome.
Now, that's a level of convenience I wish I had here. I wish I could go to Louisiana or something on a train. I think that'd be awesome.
So I did that. The last time I did this was I actually went to the Mets Phillies playoff games and went through on local traffic like SEPTA and New Jersey Transit. And I'm going to do the same thing again because I like when I do that, I start to bust the balls of New Yorkers, and they love following me, and then they love busting my balls back.
Joe's got a pretty good question, Pags.
Yeah,
I don't want that myself.
So, Joe, that has not happened, and mostly because police officers are friends of the Philly sports guy. They know that I do a lot of stuff for charity for them, and that I can get away with a little bit of murder. A little bit of murder. I can't
Just a
actually
little
kill
bit.
somebody,
Not a
but
lot,
there are
but a little
sometimes
bit.
there are sometimes I can run a red light. Like when it's time to get out of the arena area, and there's like 6 cars right there, and I'm in the front, and there ain't no traffic coming, I'll just blow that light and go and keep on moving. Everybody will be still waiting on that light, and I never get pulled over because they know it's me.
I feel like if you had that little device that Progressive car insurance gives you to monitor your driving, if you had that in your device, they would not be so lenient. I don't know. Maybe they would. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're feeling some Philly sports guy. Hell, I don't know.
Well, I don't use that device.
I do have a question for you. It seems like a while back when we talked about the 76ers, or if we talked about even the Flyers, you have not been the biggest of sports fans sometimes. Maybe not so much the Flyers, definitely the Sixers. There was a time when you had an issue with the Sixers.
I still have an issue with the Sixers. I am not happy with the way that they have been doing things. And I feel that ownership is more worried about the bottom line than the product on the court. And I think that that's a proper answer for that. Like I said, I don't have to like always be on the same side as, hey, go Philly, go Philly, go Philly. You know what I mean? I am always go Philly. and I want our teams to do well, but I
Sure.
want our ownership to have as much invested stake in this team as we do. And when they have profits looked at as more important than production from the team, I take umbrance from that.
I kind of see that a little bit with Jerry Jones. That's the situation I have about Jerry Jones. Now, Jerry, I think he does try to win. He just gets in his own way. But I do feel like he is more concerned with that bottom line. He's concerned about himself. But, rather than putting the really best product out there, whether it be through your coaching and development, which is really kind of where I have more the biggest issue with him. But I understand your irritation with the Sixers, because I had that same irritation with the Cowboys. So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and so like I said, it doesn't mean that I don't want them to do well. I want them to win championships. I mean, that's what I want for all of my teams. I want
Right.
us to do the best. I also want us to perform the best. I want the best product out on the field. And that takes work from everybody, from the owner on down. And I feel that since ownership has chosen to not take some of the responsibility of what they put onto the court, that I feel that they should be held accountable for those decisions.
Right.
And
100%.
that doesn't mean that I dislike my team. It just means that I'm very critical of my team.
Well, and you should
Now,
be. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, yeah, you support your team, but you also can't just turn a blind eye to the fact that they do things in a terrible way. I mean, look at Dallas.
Hey, and you laugh like as if that was gonna bother, but you know what?
No.
It's true. No, it's true. No,
No.
no, it's okay. It's okay to laugh, because you know what? Sometimes I get so angry at them, I have to laugh. I have to find an alternate emotion to process my anger. And so I get it, Bo. It's
Well, no. So we actually have a piece of Dallas news that we were going to talk about anyway, and they, as reported by the Dallas Morning News, Calvin Watkins, Brandon Aubrey, they offered him to be the highest paid kicker in the league at $7.5 million per year, and he wants more. He wants $10 million a year. Now, he's been one of the more consistent pieces of that offense, and can blast the thing from 70. So I mean, they probably don't give him the 10, but I bet they end up with 8.5, which would still reset the.
I got to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. Look, if you're going to give Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, who is not on the team, and Ezekiel Elliott, oh, by the way, he's not on the team either, those three big contracts, which kind of puts you, oh, by the way, in the cap you're still kind of sort of in right now. Why would you not get probably one of the most productive players on your team in terms of points, especially when you can kick it from 60 or 70, $10 million? Maybe he kind of earned it a little bit. I don't know, maybe a little bit.
So here's the issue, though, is your top running backs that's what they make, right? 10 to 12 a year. Yeah. So, I mean, when you're thinking about impact, could you get a kicker that is solid for less than for half? Yeah, you can, because your top guys are making 6.5 currently.
Yeah, well, I think about this a little differently.
Yeah,
I go back to the way fantasy football runs.
Sure.
Kickers on fantasy football are a commodity that comes out in the 15th and 16th rounds of the, you don't ever pick a kicker earlier than that, supposedly, blah, 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 unless you want somebody who's going to do that. But ultimately, kicker gives you more points than most of the players that you have on the teams.
For sure.
No,
that's definitely true.
Yeah.
So
100%.
And 100%. In the Cowboys, I got to imagine that he was 25 to 30% of all the scoring.
Absolutely.
Oh, no question.
Absolutely.
No question. Yeah.
There's something to be said for that.
When you're at a 3 and out on the 50, you're either going to do one of two things. You're either going to punt it or you're going to put some kind of points on the board. And when you got to like Brandon Aubrey, not only is he a long distance kicker, but he's very, very consistent, which is another thing that sometimes in the Cowboys we have not always had is consistent play. So why would you not give a guy who can still put points on the board when you need it, when you've gone 3 and out and you don't get those extra yards that you needed to continue the drive? Why would you not? And I got to tell you guys, at some point we've seen in every single position they've set markets. Markets get set all the time. Now, we also talked about the cap could probably come down. I know, Pags, you probably had Kevin down here in the cap. But at some point, the kickers are going to start becoming not all the kickers, but the elite ones, like the really elite ones, are going to get that paycheck. I can't, and like Donna said, somebody's going to pay him, even if the Cowboys don't. Now, I don't think you give him 10 off the right. I think maybe you go 8.5, and then he says, "Okay, let's go 9.5," and you beat it 9. You know, I mean, that's called negotiation, right? Let's do it.
Well, no, I mean, and that's the thing, right? Is the offer that's already on the table 7.5? He wants 10. That's why I say he's probably going to end up with like 8.5 is probably where this thing lands, which still resets the market for kickers in general.
I mean, I don't know who the most highest paid kicker is in the league right now.
Buckner, and he's making 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah. No, that's why I say like he wants a significant jump over the highest paid kicker currently.
But he is also the person who scored 30% of your points.
No, for sure. I mean, you can make the 100%. Case for it. It's just you're going from 6.5 to 10. Like that is a massive jump.
Well, but there again, it becomes a matter of is he a little bit ahead of the game? Because if they decide to go towards the rules of UFL, where they start to increase the points for a field goal, which it could happen. I don't see it happening right away, obviously, but it could very well happen.
It could, and the way that Dustin reported it was inaccurate. There's no 5 point. So the 4 point is just for 60 plus. Yeah. So
here's the thing. I want to go very quick. Robert said the goal is to score touchdowns, not field goals. I don't agree with that because I've seen a lot of games get lost by 3 points. I see a lot of games get lost by 2 and 1 point. Robert, sure. I believe this is just my fundamentalistic belief. My goal is I should put points on the board every time I have a drive. Now, does that mean it's going to happen? No. Sometimes you don't get to the 50. But my goal is to put points on that board every single time I'm on a drive. And if it means that I want to get to the 50 and I'm 3 and out, and I can only get 3, then damn it, I'm going to put 3 on the board. Because at the end of the day, all them 3s and 7s, they add up to something. So my philosophy is when I'm on a drive, I need to put points, whether it be 3 or 7. I need to be putting points on the board. That's that, Bo. I don't know how you look at it, Pags. I don't know how you guys look at it. That's just the way I see it.
Of course, you want to finish every drive with points. What are you talking about, Jay?
Well, not everybody agrees with Jay. Some people do think that touchdowns are more important than field goals, and that should be whatever. I mean, come on. What are we talking about?
Well, I mean, of course you want touchdowns, but like I'm more conservative of, when you're looking at all these guys that are putting up, that are going for it on 4th down all the time. Those certainly the ones that are going for it on their own side of the field. I'm not a big fan of that. I am more of a, hey, let's punt that away, or let's get the points, right? Like if I'm on the 40 and we're 4th and 3, I'm kicking a field goal, right? I know that, analytics says you go for it and all of this. It's like, you know what? I've seen plenty of games that came down to, if you wouldn't have went for it and you just took the points, you win. Or, like in this one's case where we won
Is that my internet or his?
No, it's his.
Okay, just want to make sure. I wasn't sure that was mine or his. Sometimes it's mine. Man, it sounds like my wife on the phone when she gets mad at me.
Wow.
Yep, you disappeared, Bo, and it's just
What happens when you get that cricket internet instead of AT&T fiber optics? But it's not here. It's okay. Oh, he has
Yeah.
Comcast. You have Comcast. That's right.
Yeah, there's a reason I bag on him constantly. There's probably actually somebody from Comcast just on the pole outside. They're like, "Oh man, oh you lost the power, now it's back." Like, just because I hate on him so much over the course of this show, they probably just have the light switch, turning it on and off.
I gotta tell you, Bo, though, outside of Walker the third, which honestly he really deserved that MVP, no doubt about it, man. But Myers, the job that he's done for you guys is amazing, and I mean, you guys really do need at some point to pay that guy because he has done a really, really good service for you.
Yeah. We're not going to pay him. But
Yeah.
They're not going to pay Walker. But anyway, to answer your question there, Rob, since I was blinking in and out there for a second, Myers is definitely going to want to get paid, not only because of that 5 field goal game that he got, but because he's the all-time leading scorer for the Seahawks. Like, he's going to want money, and then he's going to go somewhere else because we also didn't pay Hauschka when he wanted a bunch of money. We brought in the guy from the Vikings. So there's that.
There you go.
You know, I forget his name offhand, and he came in and also wasn't that great for us. And we picked him up after some missed field goals in the playoffs, and then he promptly missed some field goals for us.
But you had this one who just got 5 field goals, so
he did well. He's also been our most accurate kicker, so he's going to get paid. There's no question.
somewhere.
Yeah, not in Seattle, but somewhere.
Well, I think with the cap going up higher, I don't know that what Dallas's kicker is asking is outlandish. I think it's maybe just a sign of the times in general. The fact that it's in Dallas that he's asking is funny to me, just because they are the ones that probably have the most cap L that they're dealing with.
Yeah, besides the Saints, maybe.
But I don't disagree with his thought process. I mean, I kind of believe that he deserves it.
Oh, I'm with you.
So, ha 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 ha.
And Cam, yeah, I mean, them not bringing back the Super Bowl MVP does make sense when you look at Seattle's history, right? A lot of teams may pay the guy. Seattle doesn't pay running backs like that. They just draft the next guy. I did see that the Jets were potentially tagging Hall, so that won't be an option. But again, that ultimately probably doesn't matter that much. They probably draft, another guy in the second or third round. They seem to like to do that. What does he have to do to get paid? It just depends on the organization, right? Like some organizations don't have a problem paying. Look at what Dallas did to Zeke. They had no problem paying him. In fact, they overpaid him because they didn't want to wait. They didn't want to do it early. And then some teams don't want to pay him, and they go to the Eagles and win a Super Bowl. So yeah, I mean, you just never know.
Right. I mean, listen, it's part of what it is that everybody wants to get money. Everybody wants to get paid. That's just how it works. This is sports. So it's how everybody wants to get theirs, and everybody thinks they're worth it. And, truth of the matter is that 7 times out of 10 they are. Are they worth some of the money that they're getting? I don't know about that. But, it's like still it's a real thing. Obviously it's, I didn't think Zeke was worth all that money. And then he, promptly, showed why he wasn't.
Yeah, Zeke really, when he first came on the scene in year number 1, okay, that was a guy that looked really good. But then he just went downhill after that first year. I mean, and I think a lot of it had to do with the conditioning. I don't think he took care of his body the way he should have taken care of his body.
Sure.
And there's other things too, I'm sure, that play into that. But yeah, Zeke was just, man, talk about a disappointment. I really had higher hopes for that guy. I really did. you know?
Yeah. Well, and so that's a telling, story is, like Cam says, when you produce, you should get paid. Well, Zeke did produce, got paid, and then never produced again. So, and I agree, Walker ain't Zeke, but the issue is Walker does have an injury history, and Seattle has a running back injury history. And so that is part of the reason why they don't pay guys is you end up with the Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, even Walker, outside of this year, which is a contract year. If you're going to stay healthy, that's the one you want to stay healthy in. But, because they have a history of getting their running backs on IR, it's also one of the reasons why they don't pay them. And they do the running back by committee because they have a hard time keeping their running backs on the field. So that's why I say, like, he's going to get paid. It's just not going to be in Seattle. So, when you're saying if you produce, you should get paid, he'll get paid. Someone's going to give him 10 to 12 million a year. It's just not going to be with Seattle.
It looks like.
Are you sure about that? Are you sure that they're going to be that way? Because obviously, like I said, everything is going up. Like, so the cap now justifies that 10 to 12, for a running back.
I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying historically they don't. Right? I mean, it may be the random one-off. Obviously, they're doing a lot of different, shifts. Yeah, exactly. Thomas Rawls also. So I'm not saying there's no chance they sign him, but when you look at the history under Schneider, they don't pay him.
Yeah, and I think it really is going to come down to this new ownership group and what their philosophy is going to be when it comes to paying players. I mean, we know what the Paul Allen philosophy was, but I'm curious to see what this new ownership group and what their philosophy is going to be. Because that could ultimately change some things. You never know.
Well, but it won't matter for these contracts.
Right.
Because they're not going to be in place. So, if Seattle, if they get sold this year, it's not going to matter for this year. Right. Because you would have already done the draft would have already happened. Free agency would already be done. I mean, honestly, by the time a deal comes together, you're looking at the 27 season anyway. Like, I'd be really surprised if somehow an $8 billion check comes in before this season starts. Right. Like, this is going to take some time because not only do you have to find an ownership group that can come up with the money, but it also has to get approved by the other owners. And I mean, it's a process. When you think of the Broncos, when they sold, that took well over a year to actually make happen.
Right.
Like, that wasn't that was, Walmart coming in with, just printing money in their buildings to buy that team. And it still took forever to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if they sign him and then ownership group comes in and says, all right, no, we're not going to keep this contract. They can always trade him for picks. Like you said, somebody's going to take him because he had such a great year.
Yeah.
It could be even the Chiefs, who I feel like are in desperate need of a run game to support the pass game.
There's a lot of teams that could use a talent like Walker, including Seattle. Because, Charbonnet doesn't get back until halfway through the season. Helani, although maximized his touches, isn't Walker. And so, I mean, like, they're going to need a guy. Again, it's just based on history. Not to say that they don't break that chain, but and they have the cap space. Jamie, you're right. They're I think they're fifth or sixth in total cap space available. So, I mean, they have the ability to keep him if they want. It's just, do they want to, based on his injury history and just the history of Schneider as GM?
Right.
We haven't seen it. Not to say that they won't.
And I think it may be, I mean, who knows what they do, but I feel like it wouldn't be a bad idea for them to keep him because that way you keep the momentum going. Like you said, you're not getting Charbonnet back until middle of the season. Maybe bring him back, even if it's a 1 or 2 year deal, you bring him back on a short-term deal if that's what he's looking for. And, you let him play that out. That way you keep because I think you guys have a good enough team that you could make a really good shot at a repeat. Not that you're going to get it, but I think you make a really good shot at it.
Well,
and he would help keep that momentum for you guys.
So this is where the talk for Walker, staying really comes in is Charbonnet is going to be coming off this injury. It's also going to be his contract year. So, do you go for Walker? Do you go for Charbonnet? Like which one are you doing? You're probably not paying them both. You'll be able to get Charbonnet for less because he's going to be missing half of his contract year, right, with the injury. So,
right.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But again, based on history, Walker probably plays somewhere else.
That's a good point. Good point. Interesting.
So,
and I've also seen where the Jets have come out and said that they're going to retain Breece Hall. So it looks like he's going to stay, at least for right now, from what I've seen, he's going to stay with the Jets.
Yeah, they're going to franchise tag him.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that can go a few different ways. So they can franchise tag him to try and sign a long-term deal, or they could be franchise tagging him to do a sign and trade.
Yeah.
You sign your franchise tag and then we ship you somewhere else. You've seen that happen a few times. Another team that is looking to franchise a guy is Kyle Pitts with Atlanta. They're offering him the franchise tag. I imagine that is also one of those situations where they're just doing that to keep him on the team to try and lock up, a long-term contract. But, we'll see. Some of those do work out to be sign and trade kind of deals.
Yeah, they do. They sure do. And another one I thought that was interesting was now Kyler Murray, he's come out that he has not talked to ownership, that the GM, is kind of saying, look, we got 3 guys under contract. We're going to make a competition basically out of it. We have options. So it doesn't look like, even though Kyler Murray most likely will probably get the start, but the fact that he's saying that we have options and there is no clear starter kind of makes me think maybe Brissett could wind up, if he plays well enough, could earn that spot. Maybe.
Brissett played better than Kyler Murray has. So yeah. I would say that if they're saying it's an open competition, it's because they don't believe in Kyler. Because Kyler's contract says he should be your starter, but his level of play hasn't. And so, when you're looking at having an open competition, it means they're already leaning towards Brissett. Like he's commanded that better. But who knows? I mean, it's Hackett as your OC. So, I mean, they could be trying to lose. That hire makes me think you are.
So he has come out basically. Now, this is the GM, quote unquote. Yeah, I've always had a good dialogue with Kyler. Ossenfort, I think is how you say his name, said, and I'd say last season wasn't up to what Kyler wanted. It wasn't up to what any of us wanted as a season and as a whole. And then he goes on to talk about Brissett having a great, season with the group, and that all options are on the table. Which kind of makes me think that, like you said, I think if Brissett shows out in camp, I think Brissett might get that job. Even though Kyler is more talented, maybe even more higher paid.
I mean, the higher paid matters if you're doubling down on a guy. If you are strictly interested in production, the pay doesn't matter. That's where you look at it and be like, oh, well, we guessed wrong. I mean, Seattle did that with Matt Flynn. They gave him $17 million, never took a snap. Because they're like, oh, you know what? This Russell Wilson kid is playing a lot better than him.
Yeah.
If you got somebody that's outperforming, as long as your team is set up where competition matters as opposed to if you got a contract, you start, then it's Brissett probably wins that job.
We'll see.
I got a feeling if I'm Sierra and Russ comes home and says, I got a feeling if I'm Sierra and Russell comes home and says, hey, Sierra, we're going to New York. And Sierra's probably like, damn it, Russell, can't you hold a job? Why are you always moving around?
She wanted to go to New York.
She has moved around a lot. Did she? Is that well? Maybe. Then she's getting her dream. Then maybe she says, "Hey, Russell, congratulations for going to New York. Thank you."
That was why he took the job for $1 million.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what he? Okay. Yeah. I don't know much about Sierra. I know she has some kind of celebrity status in the world outside of just being married to Russell.
Russell's done, and he's been done.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's done. Like, listen, you got a hot wife. You could probably get any job talking on, as
Oh,
a
no question.
fill in for any type of, you know, football show. Why bother? Like, the
Right.
fight would be out of me a little bit. Now, I understand that once you're out, you're out. You don't ever come back and stuff like that. And,
Unless
you
you're Philip
know,
Rivers,
well,
they'll let
yeah,
you
but
come
even
back.
Philip Rivers, like, in the process of that, like, he's going to wind up getting a coaching job. Like, that's
Yeah.
kind of what it is that he did. He did a real life interview for coaching in the NFL.
Yeah.
As a quarterback. That was kind of to show that he still kind of has enough sway with these players.
Hmm.
So because ultimately, it's like when you're doing high school and then go to college and go, like, you got to go to like a level 3 school, then you got to go to level 1 school, and it's like there's so many different steps that you got to take. He tried to bypass all that by quarterbacking for a football team.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I understand
Yeah.
exactly what he did.
Yeah, I'm not mad
Yeah.
at it.
Not a little
I
bit.
wonder I wonder as we get closer to the draft and things of that nature. Maybe it happens at the draft. If we're going to see any trades being made, maybe if Crosby gets moved, if Walker does a sign and trade, or whatever the case may be. I wonder if we're going to see any kind of trading at the draft deadline. I know this isn't a strong draft. I know me and Bo talked about this the other day, where after Mendoza, you're looking at a lot of O line and a lot of D line.
Yeah, I
Pretty
mean
much.
it's strong if you need the trenches, and let's be honest, most teams do.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
offensive line play has been terrible across the league. Like, so for it to be a good offensive and defensive line draft like that, that's great for most teams when you're looking at production.
Yeah. What do you think, Pags? And I know last draft you guys went pretty heavily on defense. I kind of almost think you almost need to go offensive line in this draft just to kind of shore up some spots along your at least nothing else for depth purposes.
I always want offensive and defensive linemen in the first round. Like, that's my MO. If I am the GM of a football team, you get a big guy in the first couple of rounds because they only make so many of them.
Yep.
And it's like, if that guy is any bit of a leader, if he's got any bits of like acumen on a football field, I want him. I want that guy in our trenches. Uh, so I the one thing that I will say that disappeared with Jason Kelsey was the continuity of that offensive line. And although we won a Super Bowl without him, that he was not there for that year, the
Yep.
continuity that came with him or left that with him stayed for that season. Now
Yeah.
he's 2 seasons removed, and you see that our offensive line struggled last year because everybody thought that they could do things differently than how they were doing it.
Right.
And it's like the muscle memory. Sometimes you start to forget that muscle memory, and you start to take little bits of cutting corners. You cut that little bit of corner, and you cut that little bit of corner, and ultimately you don't have the same shape anymore of what you had before. And that's
Yeah.
part of the issue that I saw that happened last year. Um, that all being said, the fact that Stoutland is no longer there, I think that like it's time. It was absolutely time. I know he's one of the best in the league, and when I think about it, it's like, how do you replace him? You don't. But also along those same lines, it's always time for a little bit of a change. This guy
Yeah.
was here for 12 seasons. He's uh, some of what has been taught starts to dull a little bit. And you need a fresh face to kind of remind you, hey, we got to get back to the basics. when you're hearing from the same coach over and over again, you start to hear it as repetitive and it doesn't sink in the same way. So I know that he's going to be a great coach somewhere else. There's a reason why, he was listed as the best in the NFL.
Right.
That being said, I think that sometimes you get a little stale, and the same thing happened with Andy Reid. He got a little stale here, you know.
And honestly, that really worked out well for both Reed and you guys, right? Reed went on to get Super Bowls finally with Chiefs, and you guys got Super Bowls with Sirianni. So you're right. You got a little stale, and you made that transition, and the both of you became out the better for it, honestly, at the end of the day. So
Right.
I get that.
So,
I got a question. Hendrickson, he's only got that 1 year deal. So now he's not. Now he's back to being a free agent again. 1 year, $30 million. Does he go back and stay with the Bengals, or where do you see him going?
No chance.
So where do you think he winds up?
I'll be right back, guys.
Oh,
I think they handled that poor enough that he's more of the I will go anywhere else, right? Because you're not going to win with Cincy anyway,
right?
So you might as well go somewhere that's going to pay you also that you at least have a shot,
right?
Like the Bengals. The fact that they didn't move on from their coach or their GM makes you think they're not even trying to win, right? So if you're him, they refuse to give you a long-term deal or any of those types of things. Yeah, I'd be looking to go somewhere else. And since he's an unrestricted free agent, yeah, you go take those phone calls. Maybe you even end up taking less money overall just for an option to win.
Yeah. Now, in this article I saw here, now I'm kind of rethinking, is he a free agent? Because in this article here that just came out yesterday on the 24th at 7 o'clock, talks about them trading him. So is he still under, I guess, that part of the contract? Because it's really weird. It says finding a way to trade defensive end Trey Hendrickson will not be simple for the Cincinnati Bengals. So now I'm thinking, like, but I know he had a 1 year deal. He didn't sign anything more than that.
Yeah, so that makes you think that they are thinking about maybe franchising him. And if you think he was unhappy before,
he's gonna be pissed.
That would absolutely be one of the sign and trade situations. That's what that would be.
I remember back in the day when Barry Sanders was not happy with Detroit, and he just faxed in his retirement to them dudes. I wonder if Trey Hendrickson is so pissed off that he just faxes in a big "F you," I'm not coming back, and I'm going to Bermuda.
He still has too many years of play left in him to want to leave that kind of money on the table. Right?
Yeah.
For Barry, he was getting closer to the end. Like, obviously, he still had a few years left in him for sure, but he was at least closer to the end of his run in the NFL. Hendrickson still has, like, he's at the midway point, right? So he still has some years left based on, his level of production.
So if you're looking at a contract for him, would you be looking at probably like a 4 or 5 year deal that would kind of get him closer towards maybe the retirement area?
Yeah, well, and I'm sure that's
in terms of production.
Yeah, I'm sure he wants a 4 or 5 year deal that's worth some money, and with a franchise that is at least interested in winning.
Right, 100%.
Instead of one that's like, yeah, we don't do defense here.
No, we don't.
It's funny that Joe, you're saying that linebackers are very deep in this draft class, and you guys are saying the trenches were also kind of strong. I don't know. I remember a lot of points being scored in college this year,
So it's not necessarily that they're over the top prospects. It's just that the skill positions are non-existent. So you're strong in this draft class against this draft class, right? So you only have 2 quarterbacks that are really worth mentioning. You have 1 running back, and then your skill guys are going to be late in the first round at best. Right. So everybody else. So that's where you're saying it's strong in those positions just because they're better of the overall product. Not necessarily that they're like world beaters at their positions. They just happen to be better than the skill positions that are in this draft.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
So
I
they're the best of the okay.
Which is why I feel like, that's why I feel like for the Cowboys, because, this is a trenches heavy thing, and they have 2 picks, and they are in desperate need of a pass rush like nobody's business. Why not trade up those 2 picks and go after Bain from Miami? Because you are in a cap hell. We are. So why not go after him? You'll get a good pass rusher, and you'll be able to stay within that cap threshold that you're trying to stay in. That would make sense to me to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, yes. I think that having one guy where you have the ability to possibly get 2 guys is short-sighted for a team that needs so many different things. If it was just a pass rush that was going to make the difference for the Cowboys to get to the playoffs, even. I mean, they were not in the playoffs this year. Now they're going to be in the playoffs. And if you think that the pass rush was the only thing that could have been made different and made them a playoff team, then yeah, I guess maybe you would consider doing that. I think that everybody's gotten a little older. And I think that you have too many different things that need to get fixed. And ultimately, I think after you get rid of you got one more year left before you start to really have to figure out what you're doing at quarterback.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to start to make those preparations for that. So I don't know that I would, obviously you don't want to take a year off. That's not the thought process here. But I would definitely start to fortify your offensive line and then start to figure out who you're going to have quarterback, because ultimately, I mean, you could say whatever you want and how good of a quarterback Dak Prescott is. And he has the numbers, he has the wins, he's got all of those intangibles. That being said, is he the guy who's going to win you a championship? I don't know that that's the case, because he hasn't gone over the top at any moment in his career to prove that. And I think that you need that guy.
Yeah.
But what's interesting me enough about this? This is the problem with the Cowboys. The Cowboys have never faltered because of one guy. They've always faltered for multiple guys, whether it be penalties in that San Francisco game, which completely destroyed them, or lack of defense when we were there and nobody could find a quarterback to save their life. I don't think that's the one knack that I've always heard about Dak Prescott, is that he doesn't get it done in the playoffs. He gets it done in the regular season, doesn't get to the playoffs. But I feel like that's almost kind of unfair to him, because it's not him that's doing it. It's all these other issues, penalties, defense. I mean, he can't play defense and penalty. I mean, come on. That's why I feel like he almost kind of gets a bad rap sometimes.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go backwards in time for you, for the Cowboys. All right, so Troy Aikman, when he was in college, he was a champion, right? Like he won, he didn't win the national championship, but he won division championships and stuff like that. He was a champion. You go back past that, Danny White, who did not win a Super Bowl, but also was a champion in college. You go beyond that, you go to Roger Staubach, who was just a champion all the way around. You know what I mean? So then let's go forward from, now from Troy Aikman. You have a couple of, shyster quarterbacks. And then you have Tony Romo. Tony Romo was a walk-on, who he played great, but he never was that championship pedigree. He never had that championship pedigree. You had a 4th-round pick in Dak Prescott, who has broken every Dallas Cowboys record, has thrown for more yards by like almost close to 10,000 yards than every other quarterback now at this point. But he didn't have a championship pedigree. I feel like that's part of this, that you need a quarterback that knows how to win a championship to be able to get to the championship, and it's.
I mean, I agree with that to some degree, but you also got to think of when they lost to Green Bay. Like their defense was nowhere on the screen most of the time. Like as much as I like to bag on Dak because it's entertaining, he had nothing to do with that loss.
100%. And sometimes you are you're the victim of circumstance, which
sure.
he was in that game. In that one specific game, he was the victim of circumstance. I will tell you, he's lost to the Eagles, 3 times in his career? 2 of those 3 times were for the division. And that's telling. That's very telling. You know what I mean? So it's like when the games mean the most, he, for whatever reason, is that victim of circumstance. And like you could go,
but not to be argumentative, but I'm going to start this because this is a very good point. I understand what you're saying about that, but I also see where they're talking about. Look, Trent Dilfer was not an elite quarterback, but yet he got a Super Bowl because he had a team around him.
Yep.
Dan Marino was an elite quarterback, but had no team really around him. That's why he lost to Joe Montana in that one Super Bowl appearance he was in. So you could be an elite quarterback, still not get it done. You could be an average game managing quarterback and get it done. Nick Foles got it done with the Eagles. Look at Sam Darnold. That dude was on the outs in Carolina, and now he has a Super Bowl. So what are we talking about? I think Dak gets way too much baggage on his name.
100%. Yes. Is he always getting the blame for the Dallas losses? Probably more than he should.
No question.
That being said, he also has come up a little on the smaller side in games that are very meaningful. And it's like again, this goes back to to quote the greatest sports movie of all time, The Replacements. Greatness, no matter how brief, stays with a man. Failure, however, lingers. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's a little bit of the issue. You know what I mean? It's like,
Robert, I did not steal your comment. I started my comment off with Trent Dilfer, Dan Marino. Neither one of those names are in your comment. I do appreciate that. I just put your comment because you were talking about Sam Darnold, so I actually did give you credit. So let's make sure that we're being completely honest with what we're saying, okay? Because I don't like to be slandered. Not this guy.
No, and we're talking about Trent Dilfer. Listen, Trent Dilfer wasn't the quarterback. Like, he was the quarterback that actually played in the game, but the quarterback of that team was on the defensive side. He was the one that ran that team. That was his locker room. He controlled that whole narrative.
Dilfer just had to come in and not mess it up.
That's exactly it. And it was Ray Lewis the entire way. So, and yes, if Dak Prescott had 100%. A Ray Lewis in that locker room, Dak may win more games. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying, and that's not really like it's not as big a slight on Dak that you think that I'm making here. I think it's just an honest observation. Right. When you talk about how Nick Foles took command of that offense and had the 3 best games of his life.
Yes.
And then the next year, when he came back onto the field again, he started to elevate his game again. Now, had Alshon Jeffrey caught the ball, it would have been a different scenario.
Sure.
But he didn't catch that ball. He dropped that ball. And once he dropped it, that's, okay, so we lost that game. Had he won that game, it's possible that we, win that Super Bowl again. Then what? Then you're talking about how he is the greatest backup quarterback of all time because he won back-to-back Super Bowls as a backup.
I mean, if people talk about it.
And that's what I was trying to say earlier. Like, when you look at
he's the only backup to get a statue.
Yeah, that's true. But like that's what you're saying though. Look at the defense of Ray Lewis, right? You're right. He was the guy over there. Then you look at Hendrickson. He's a hell of a good guy. He's a very aggressive guy, which could make a transformation in your defense. And then I look at Bain, in the draft out of Miami, and we all know how physical Miami's defense was and how good that defense was, and he was a huge cornerstone there, which is why I kind of feel like if we can get Bane on our team, because we lost our cornerstone in Micah Parsons, but if we can get it back in a Bane and put him on the edge and have that guy be that physical, energetic pass rusher, that could spark our defense to do what they needed to do. That's why I was making is a 2 draft pick for somebody of that caliber could be. Now, if it was an average guy, no. But somebody who I think has maybe special talents, I don't see, I can see that being a thing. By the way, so, I like how your girlfriend is color-coded and matching.
No problem. I also will let's go back to Seattle's Super Bowl. Yep. The Super Bowl that they win, they had really 3 quarterbacks on that field because they had one on the defense. You could say Richard Sherman, but that defensive line was also crazy, insane. Actually, and so Wagner, really, it was Bobby Wagner who was probably the quarterback of that defense. And then you had Beast Mode, who was really, really the vocal leader in the locker room. He didn't want to do any talking outside the locker room, but he was definitely the vocal leader inside. And then you had a Russell Wilson who had, a championship mentality. Let's go to the next year. When they started to actually take it, we're going to let Russ win it. And they will never, ever forget that moment in time. Sure. They'll never forget that moment in time. And that was the difference. That, okay, we tried to force feed that championship pedigree, and it didn't happen. Now, Russ was a good quarterback. You could say Russ was a great quarterback, as great as Dak Prescott was. The only difference is that he got to win one Super Bowl that the defense destroyed. They won that game on the first play when they got the safety.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That first play of the game, that game was over because of that safety. And that was that. So could you say that Russell Wilson won that game? Yeah, well, he didn't give it away. And
that if you're talking about the actual
that's right.
He wasn't even hardly in that game. But I mean, when you look at the first 10 years of a career, Russell Wilson has a ton of those records. So, I mean, anyone that comes out and they're like, oh, Russ wasn't that good. It's like, well, the numbers kind of counteract that. I'm not a huge Russell Wilson fan, but at the same time, like, the numbers don't lie.
Right. And it's very similar to Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
I feel like if you look at this, just take this season alone, right? Our offense was on point. There was no problems. Everything. Look, George Pickens, Dak did for George Pickens what everybody else in Pittsburgh couldn't do. Right. I mean, he made George Pickens look good. And not that George Pickens isn't a great elite type of wide receiver. I don't want to put that narrative out there. But I'm just saying, when you have a good quarterback that can get him the ball to a good wide receiver, you can see that. So I do think that Dak is a good quarterback. I think the problem with Dallas this year was the fact that we were 30th and 32nd in defense in a lot of categories. That was our problem.
That's the thing, is your overall defense was the worst in the league. So you had the best offense and the worst defense, and that's why you were average. Like you could score points, you just couldn't stop anything. And when you think of the fact that you were worse on defense than the Bengals, that is impressive.
Yeah. Right, but what does that mean? It means that this year wasn't Dak's fault.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
But you knew that going in, that we all said that Dallas was going to have a tough year. That Dallas was going to, you lost your best defensive player, before the season even began. And tried to make whatever excuses you wanted to try to make to say that, hey, you didn't need him. You needed him. He was there for your defense. He was your pass rush that you needed. He was your run stopper that you needed. Did he take every play? Did he take every play as 100%? No, but he played enough plays. You know what I mean? He did enough to be able to make sure that defense didn't stink as bad as it did.
I mean, the defense.
Now, Pat, I will tell you this. You know what? You know what quarterback did cost the Dallas Cowboys an opportunity to get to the Super Bowl was Romo. And Bo, you were there. You were there for Fumblegate. You were there for Fumblegate when the field goal could have got us the win, and we could have actually gone to the next level that we've never been to before. Now, if you want to say Romo was an average or whatever quarterback, I will 100% agree because that dude cost me lots and lots of years of grief.
You know, the thing that was funny with Romo is he was actually a good quarterback, incredibly smart when it came to breaking down defenses and stuff. Fragile. Like, dude,
he just has butterfingers
all the time. All the time he was
butterfingers. Well, that too. Hurt or he had butterfingers. Now, coach, you know this don't look normal. Just get out there, hold the ball, let him kick it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the fumble against Seattle was awesome, but
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
you know how many decades that set us back?
That stadium was loud, like it was amazing. But no, I mean, like his biggest thing was he just couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what really killed him, and no, like I said, the fact that he had gotten engaged and
Jessica Simpson ruined his career.
Well, no, it wasn't Jessica Simpson that he actually got engaged.
It was the other one. It was the other one, Carrie Underwood.
Well, but you saw his the 2 years that he was with Jessica Simpson. His numbers were awful.
I'm gonna tell you right now, if you ever see an athlete get hooked up with a hot blonde, just know that career's going into the toilet. That should be in every contract of every NFL player. You will not hook up with a hot blonde.
But but even after all that, the girl that he wound up actually getting engaged to, I mean, he dated the hot, those, special women. But the girl he wound up getting engaged to, when he had his bachelor party, and it went out, like it got out that he was playing like hide and seek, and they didn't drink and stuff like that. It was like, dude, you're a weirdo. And when you're a weirdo and it gets out publicly like that, everybody starts to actually say something. So if you did have any clout in the locker room, like first off, the fact that, hey, you're playing hide and seek as your bachelor party. I mean, I don't care what's going on, where you're hiding at. And if there's a whole bunch of models around, I don't give a crap about that. But what I do say is that it can't get out to the public what it is that you're doing. Like that's got to stay way in-house. And the fact that they chose to not keep that in-house and that they let that all slip said exactly what they thought about Romo. And it didn't matter at that point because they had paid him a lot of money and he was going to be the quarterback at that point. But you lost you lost all respect for him. It was like when your receiver went to Cleveland and he mentioned how do you follow a guy who oils up his bunghole? You know what I mean? How do you follow that guy into battle? You don't. At the moment that he said that, tells you exactly what everybody thought about it, that this guy was a clown, and he hasn't played really since.
Yeah. Real quick, I know we only got a couple minutes left, but Robert did ask a question about you, Pags. He said, Hurts, is he an average quarterback or elite quarterback? What's your thoughts?
So I don't put him as elite. I put him as a very good to great quarterback who, when those games come to play, I mean, obviously he had that one fumble in the Super Bowl, and you could look back and say maybe that was the reason they lost. Truth of the matter is that wasn't the reason he lost. Even with that fumble, had they given us a little bit more time, it was likely they were going to run down the field and score a touchdown and win that game. They didn't give us enough time. That they deserved the win, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. But he would have been a Super Bowl MVP. He was the Super Bowl MVP in the second Super Bowl against them. So realistically, when it comes to the biggest games in his career, he comes up very big.
Yeah.
And that's what I determine somebody who is a great quarterback or not. Now, does that mean, I never looked at Peyton Manning as an elite quarterback. He was a great motivator. He was great at calling the plays. He was great at reading the defenses. But when you look at his biggest games, he won 2 Super Bowls on the backs of 2 defenses. His Super Bowl play was subpar at best.
Yep.
But
And that's
damn,
real.
that Marvin Harrison Peyton Manning connection though was freaking phenomenal.
It was. But
Right.
when it came to winning the big games, they were able to
Yeah.
get him out of it.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just like the
100%.
same thing they were able to do with Marino. You could coach for one guy against one guy. You could coach against one guy and win those games.
100%. Because I tell you, man, because with the fact that Peyton Manning's neck was fused, you knew that all he had to do was go out there and game manage. Which, if you look at his stats in that Super Bowl with Denver, it was a very pedestrian stat line.
So,
All he had to do was be a game manager at that point.
so the thing is, coming back from the surgery when he first went to Denver, they had the most explosive offense all time.
Right.
In fact, they still hold those records.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, it didn't matter in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Legion of Boom made sure of that. But I mean, going up to that game, they weren't just winning games; they were destroying teams all the way there. So you can't really blame you can't really blame that one on Peyton directly. I mean, he can't hike the ball to himself out of the end zone, right? And
Right.
he completed passes. They just couldn't get any yards after catch. I mean, Cam Chancellor was out there trying to remove people's souls from their body. So, I mean, it was, but it's not like it was a bunch of incomplete passes. Like there just wasn't a ton of stuff open, and the things they did complete, like you were down immediately. So now the second time around when they won, that had nothing to do with Peyton. In fact, he was benched a couple of times during that for Osweiler. He was throwing ducks, like his arm was dead, but that defense was very good. And so that one was another one that was won by a defense.
Amen.
Well, anyways, I got to get going, guys.
Yep,
It's so
we gotta
funny.
get out of
It's our bedtime.
Exactly. So if you've been watching along with us, be sure to like and subscribe. Otherwise, we are going to get out of here. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.
Peace, guys.